Before the break, you talked about Michigan, but there are lots of other challenges by the Trump camp, including calls for pauses in vote counting in Georgia and Pennsylvania, where the president's team is demanding a review of every vote, saying poll watchers were kept up to 50 feet away for 20 hours, arguing more than 100,000 ballots could be fraudulent or riddled with mistakes.
Not a single Republican has been able to look at any one of these mail ballots. They could be from Mars, as far as we're concerned, or they could be from the Democratic National Committee. Joe Biden could have voted 50 times, as far as we know, or 5,000 times.
In a separate case in PA, the Trump camp wants any of the 3 million mail-in ballots arriving after Election Day tossed out. The state is arguing they should be counted if they arrive by this Friday. And the president's team is calling for a recount in Wisconsin, where Biden leads by less than 21,000 votes, citing irregularities in several counties. The governor called those allegations beyond irresponsible, but says a recount could happen. The campaign also disputing absentee votes in Nevada, and more suits could still be filed, Tucker.
Rick Leventhal will be on that story, of course. Here's what President Trump said earlier about what is unfolding right now.
This is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. It's a very sad moment. To me, this is a very sad moment. And we will win this, and as far as I'm concerned, we already have won it.
So what specifically is the contents of these lawsuits? What are we watching as we see them ascend, as the president suggested, to the Supreme Court? Jenna Ellis is a senior legal advisor for the Trump campaign, attorney to the president. She joins us tonight. Jenna, thanks so much for coming on. So what's the substance of these suits?
Yeah, so let's be clear about what this is really regarding. Joe Biden said in his press conference today that he wants all votes to count. That sounds great. The Democrats want all votes to count. Who doesn't want that? But notice the sleight of hand, the key word that they're leaving out in their narrative: legal, legitimate. We want all legal, legitimate votes to count. So by the Democrats spinning this narrative and saying that they want all votes to count, that includes duplicate votes, illegal votes, it includes spoiled votes, it includes all votes that come in after the deadline, it includes all manner of unconstitutional ballot counting. And so when the Democrats are saying that, that's exactly what they want, is that they want all manner of fraud to count. That's why our Team Trump lawsuits are so incredibly important to preserving and protecting the rule of law and making sure that all legal, legitimate votes count. And that's what President Trump has said from the very beginning and what he re-emphasized last night.
So what's interesting is last night you're watching the coverage and there were a bunch of Democratic shills posing as news anchors, and they kept repeating the same line, which is the president's trying to stop the count. At that exact moment that they were saying that, a bunch of states shut down their count. On what grounds did they do that? Well, it's a very simple question, but I've never really gotten an answer to it. How would the state of Florida, for example, be able to continue its count until we knew the result? But other states, pivotal states, for the Trump campaign, just kind of said, we're not counting anymore tonight. How was that allowed?
Right. And, you know, these are questions that we all deserve answers to. And that's why when the mainstream media is reporting certain things selectively, and also when they're reporting inaccurately and falsely that the Trump campaign is wanting the ballot counting to be stopped, no, we want meaningful access to be able to look and observe as the law allows and in fact requires that we can look and make sure that there isn't fraud that's going on. But why you have states that are pausing their counts and then starting up their counts again hours later when suddenly you have, like in the state of Michigan, you have 138,000 votes that magically appear that are all 100% Biden votes. Can you imagine the Democrats' outrage if all 100% of these were Trump ballots? And so this isn't a matter of partisan politics. This is a matter of preserving and protecting the U.S. Constitution, the rule of law, and making sure that we have a free and fair election in this country. Because when you have voter intimidation, when you have all of these different tactics, when you have delay methods that have not gone through the state legislatures, you just have unilateral action by Democrats.
I get it. Let me just ask you, though, there's so many things going on now that you get overwhelmed. My brain gets overwhelmed by it anyway. But just very quickly, the specific case that you're referring to, where 100% of the votes, many votes, were cast for Joe Biden. That doesn't seem plausible. Will those votes count?
Well, and that's what a lawsuit needs to determine. And we need to make sure that we have access to see those ballots, make sure that they are legitimate. And if not, then a judge should look at that and fairly and accurately apply the rule of law, like an umpire would do. An umpire shouldn't say, well, I don't want to call a ball or strike because that's a political question. No, that is the exact role of the judicial branch, to make sure to step in and say, here is the call, and it's according to the law and the Constitution. That's why we're fighting, because free and fair elections matter. This country matters, that we, the people, get to determine through our legitimate legal votes who is elected. President Trump will keep fighting for that.
100% of the ballots, 100% of anything ought to make you nervous, because it's probably a crock. And that does not seem believable to me. Jenna Ellis, thank you. Very suspicious. Thank you, Tucker. You think? 100%? Yes, 100%. Yeah, okay. Right. So the